Back in my student days, he was the soccer team's star player and quite popular. What are you doing? Stop it. Stop. I protested as my husband forcibly shoved me into the car trunk. Despite my surprise and desperate resistance, he didn't relent. With a cold gaze, he closed the trunk. No. Let me out. My screams fell on deaf ears, and the car started moving. About an hour later, as the car came to a sudden stop, I heard a metallic crunching sound. Fear gripped me. What was that noise? Eventually, I realized it was the sound of the car being crushed. At that moment, I braced myself for the end. My childhood dream was to become a superhero. At 25, I became a lawyer and enjoyed fulfilling days. Noah, my high school classmate, and I got married when we were 29. I secretly admired him, but he went on to become a professional soccer player, and we drifted apart. At our class reunion, Noah confessed.
I used to like you, Sophia.
And we started dating. It felt like a dream. At that time, we were both 26. Despite retiring due to injury, Noah remained resilient. He and his friend Michael, who was also from the same pro team, organized soccer workshops for kids all over the country. Thanks to his fame as a player, the workshops were always fully booked. Noah's dream was to have his own soccer field and nurture future professional players there. I wanted to support him wholeheartedly. Count me in. Whatever I can do to help. He smiled and replied.
Having a capable lawyer on my side is reassuring.
The shadow fell over our once blissful life about a year into our marriage. It all started when I casually looked into Noah's company's financials. The company he co-founded with Michael was struggling due to understaffing, so I intended to help by examining the books. What I found raised suspicions. Noah's company raised funds from sponsors and personal fans to fulfill his dream of nurturing future professional soccer players. The balance should have been substantial, but it was clearly much lower than expected. What's this? So much unaccounted for money. Nearly half the funds are missing. I confronted Noah immediately. His face contorted in anguish as he confessed.
Michael seems to have embezzled it.
Apparently, Michael had retired from professional soccer around the same time Noah did due to poor performance. Yet, they remained close and worked together. Even if you're friends, embezzlement is wrong. We should report this to the police. I insisted. Noah sighed.
I know, but I don't want to betray a friend. I'll talk to him and try to recover the money.
But it's nearly $70,000.
Yeah. Anyway, can you trust me with this?
Despite my attempts to persuade him, Noah's pained expression left me unable to unilaterally involve the police. I didn't think Michael could repay the amount immediately, but I decided to trust my husband's judgment for now. However, when Noah confronted Michael about the embezzlement, Michael fled to his hometown, prompting my husband to set off in pursuit. He asked me to accompany him, citing the reassurance of having a lawyer present. Unfortunately, my work trip schedule overlapped, and I couldn't cancel due to meetings with clients. As a result, I arrived in Michael's hometown one day after my husband. Upon reaching the location specified in my husband's message, I found a desolate natural park. To my surprise, my husband wasn't there to greet me. Instead, it was Michael. What? Why are you here? Where's Noah? Despite my inquiry, he just grinned. Then, he circled behind me and suddenly tightened his grip around my throat. Ugh. At that moment of shock and pain, my mind went blank, but I quickly regained composure. You see, I've been practicing self-defense as a hobby, and it came in handy this time. After narrowly escaping Michael's grasp, I stomped on his instep with my heels several times. Then, I pushed him away as he stumbled, and I sprinted away with unwavering determination. Leaving the natural park behind, I reached a crowded city area, finally able to catch my breath. I considered going to the police immediately, but I decided to contact Noah first. Surprisingly, he was already back home. What happened? I went to the location you told me, and Michael tried to harm me. I exclaimed. Noah apologized profusely.
I'm sorry for putting you in danger. I wanted to explain the situation to you and have you persuade him, but I never expected Michael to go that far. My judgment was off. Please forgive me.
He then recounted the events leading up to this point. Michael denied embezzling the funds, which prompted Noah to return to the company and thoroughly investigate documents. Armed with decisive evidence, Noah planned to take it to the police.
We should also file a report about the attempt on your life as well. I'm sorry, but could you return home?
Wouldn't it be better to report it to the local police here?
Just come back home for now.
At my husband's pleading, I decided to return home for the time being. 3 hours later, just as I returned home, my husband greeted me at the front door.
We need to go to the police right away. Get in the car.
I placed my travel bags down and followed his instructions, heading toward our home's parking area. As I tried to get into the passenger seat, Noah, who had been inspecting the trunk, called out to me.
Take a look at this.
Curious, I stood beside him and peered into the trunk, wondering if it contained evidence of embezzlement. What? What are you doing? Stop. Stop. Without warning, my husband shoved me from behind, locking eyes with me coldly, and then closed the trunk. No. Please, let me out. No matter how loudly I screamed, my voice reached no one. The car started moving slowly, gradually picking up speed. About an hour later, I sensed that we had parked somewhere. Trembling with fear inside the cramped trunk, I suddenly heard a metallic crunching sound. What was that noise? My heart raced until I realized it was the sound of the car being crushed. Even with self-defense training, I couldn't possibly contend with heavy machinery. But giving up wasn't an option. Amid the chaos, I desperately thought of ways to survive. Desperate to escape the trunk, I kicked the trunk's latch area with all my might. Luckily, the lock seemed to break, creating a small gap. I forced the door open, stuck my head out, and found myself in an auto junkyard. I hurriedly escaped the trunk and leaped from the pile of awaiting scrap cars. With no one in sight, I sprinted toward what seemed like an exit. As I considered seeking help from the police, I noticed Michael talking on his phone. Concealing myself in the shadows, I eavesdropped on his conversation. He casually mentioned,
I confirmed the car got crushed. She's gone now.
And then he blamed for my husband marrying a lawyer. It became clear, the person on the other end was Noah. My husband and Michael had conspired to eliminate me. If they discovered I was still alive, they'd surely try again. Before heading to the police, I needed to avoid their clutches. For now, I had to hide. Despite my fear, I felt a stronger desire to expose the truth. After all, I was a lawyer. A childhood dream of becoming a champion of justice had driven me. Sneaking out of the processing yard, I realized my smartphone was still in my pocket. I decided to contact my best friend, Mia. I arrived promptly at her apartment, where I recounted everything that had happened. Initially surprised, she eventually said,
I suspected as much. Actually, there have been some rumors about your husband.
As a TV director, Mia had access to various industry secrets. With her help, we delved into Noah's background. One by one, Noah's hidden facets emerged. Even though he was my husband, I couldn't turn a blind eye to his wrongdoing. Determined to uphold justice as a lawyer, I resolved to bring him to account. While hiding in Mia's apartment and making preparations, something caught our attention on the television screen.
Sophia, watch TV.
Upon hearing that, I looked at the television screen. The headline read, "Beautiful lawyer wife missing." My husband appeared, looking worn and tearful, pleading for information.
My wife left for work and hasn't returned. Her phone is off. Please provide any information you have.
Mia, with a sarcastic tone, remarked.
Quite the actor. Your husband, Sophia.
It infuriated me. How could he feign concern after attempting to take my life? His tearful performance continued daily on TV, not only appealing for information but also promising to create a soccer school in my honor when I returned. His hypocrisy knew no bounds. And so, about a month later, while hiding in Mia's apartment, Noah appeared as a guest on a daytime live broadcast program.
I believe my wife will return. And for when she does, I want to make the soccer school a reality.
As usual, he appealed for information about my whereabouts and continued to promote his dream. But just as his comment ended, the show's host exclaimed,
Now, introducing a surprise guest.
Noah, caught off guard, looked surprised. Spotlights illuminated the studio entrance curtain, and I signaled a victory pose to Mia before stepping out from behind the curtain. The moment Noah saw me, his expression twisted in shock. Ignoring him, the host declared,
Our surprise guest is Sophia, the wife who had gone missing.
Applause erupted in the studio, but Noah remained dumbfounded, staring at me. His lack of joy was evident, and the host looked suspicious. Realizing this, Noah stammered.
I'm just surprised.
Meanwhile, in the back of the studio, Mia nodded approvingly. Indeed, Mia was the director in charge of this program. She had informed all the show's participants about Noah's hidden side beforehand. So, naturally, the host knew everything, yet he feigned ignorance and asked me.
Where have you been all this time, Sophia?
I replied. I was in hiding. My life was in danger. As I answered, the celebrities present gasped dramatically, exclaiming, What? The host also remarked.
That's quite an intense story.
Then, he turned to Noah and asked.
Were you unaware of any of this?
Noah stammered.
I didn't know, of course.
Sensing the scrutiny around him, he hurriedly approached me, his tearful face attempting to embrace me.
Sophia. I'm relieved you're safe. I was worried.
But I pushed his outstretched hand away. The show's host chimed in.
Huh. We were expecting a heartwarming reunion, but things seem different.
An empty sentiment indeed. I stepped away from my husband and addressed the camera. Today, I'm not your wife. I'm here as a lawyer. Noah stammered.
What are you saying? Oh, right. I need to let everyone know my wife is safe.
As he tried to leave the studio, 2 staff members blocked his escape. Amidst laughter from the audience, Noah glared at me.
What's going on? I just wanted to make a phone call.
Where do you intend to contact? As I smirked, he hesitated for a moment, then sulkily rattled off, speaking rapidly.
Family, acquaintances, your work colleagues.
I smirked. No need. This is a nationwide live broadcast. Everyone's watching. His lips tightened in frustration. The host then said,
Now, introducing a certain video.
and that triggered the appearance of interviews with parents of children who participated in my husband's soccer school. First, a woman who appeared to be a mother stepped forward, tearfully recounting,
I was pressured into an inappropriate relationship by being promised that my child would become a regular player.
Next, a man who seemed to be a father appeared. He claimed that he was asked for a large sum of money to recommend his child to a famous club team, but the promise was never fulfilled. His anger trembled in his voice.
No, this is all fabricated. It's a lie.
As two staff members held him, my husband shouted, once again becoming the studio's laughingstock. It's not a lie. Although their faces and voices are concealed in this footage, they've promised to testify with their real names when we report you to the police. I asserted firmly, and the host nodded, emphasizing,
So, this amounts to fraud, right?
yes. It's a serious crime. But that's not all. As I spoke, interviews with acquaintances of Michael began to play. The witness testified that my husband and Michael became obsessed with gambling, squandering most of the funds they had collected for the soccer school. Secretly recorded footage revealed them spending an entire day at the racetrack, celebrating and agonizing over horse races.
Occasionally betting on horse racing isn't a big deal.
As my husband sulked, the next video played. It showed them similarly engrossed in betting at cycling and boat racing tracks. While gambling itself is legal in legal betting, misusing funds collected for another purpose is a crime. I explained. The studio audience gasped as Michael's acquaintance made an even more shocking statement in the footage. Former soccer players involved in illegal soccer gambling. It's outrageous.
No. Michael was the one doing it. I'm innocent.
Yet Noah's defense crumbled, revealing that he was central to the gambling activities. Worse still, the losses drove them to plan becoming soccer gambling operators to recoup their losses. The intention behind wanting to open a local soccer school was to conceal their true purpose. What they truly planned was an underground soccer gambling den. By running a children's soccer school during the day, they aimed to deceive everyone. I declared.
No. Stop making things up.
His murmured words lacked conviction, barely audible. But I pressed on, unwavering, ready for my final move. Cameras are everywhere these days. Committing a crime isn't so easy. I declared. The final footage showed my husband at an auto junkyard, arranging the disposal of our car. Later, when the footage showed me crawling out of the trunk just as the scrap machine threatened to crush it, the entire studio erupted in surprise. Michael's figure, making a call near the entrance, confirmed their joint effort to eliminate me. As you can see, my husband and Michael attempted to crush me along with the car. I asserted. My husband, now pale, mumbled in denial. The broadcast ended, but the aftermath was intense. The news ran the story daily, and reporters hounded my husband relentlessly. Afterward, I divorced Noah and claimed $20,000 in compensation. Both he and Michael faced questioning for various crimes. When my husband's arrest was imminent, Mia and I quietly celebrated. I downed my glass in one go, and she winked at me.
Next time, catch an even better man.
No, for now, I'll focus on my work, upholding justice as a lawyer. Indeed, that had been my dream since childhood.
How did you find this story? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Until next time in the next video.